Perfect time, Chaim. Let's start. We are going to start on Daf Chav Daled Amud Aleph. Thank you very much. We are going to start on Chav Daled Amud Aleph, top of the Amud, by Omar Abaya. Again, we had Shitas Rabbi Reb Chinina. What did Reb Chinina say yesterday? The sugya of Karov ve'Rachik. Karov ve'Rachik means, you can say right there, it's not a problem. Karov ve'Rachik means something's close, something's far. We always say it's not a problem. We saw that in the entire bag La Rufa, we go by Karov. What happens when you have a roiv? Usually we go Acharab Lahatais. What happens when you have a Karov telling me one direction, a roiv telling me a different direction? So we saw from Reb Chinina that we go basar the roiv. We don't go basar the Karov. That was Shitas Rav Chinina, that roiv overrides a Karov. Now we're going to continue. We're going to try to bring a raya from Abaya. Abaya's going to bring a raya to Chinina that by Karov and roiv we go basar roiv. Exactly mark of Daled and Aleph as follows. Omer Abaya. Af anan nami tanina. We have also learned this in a Mishnah. This following halacha. We're on top of the Amud, around 4 or 5 lines from the top. 4 lines. Dam shenimtza be prosder. So let's look over here in this illustration to give the example what happens with dam nida. Again, the Chasam Sofer says today, if whoever's a doctor, whoever's in this field would know that it's lav dafka the way it is. But this is how Rashi learns it. The Gemara Shuta, we're going to go with Shitas Rashi, is that a woman has the cheder, the uterus. Dam comes from the cheder, from the room we call it. We're going to call it the room, and the aliyah. Aliyah is on top over there. Here's the prosper where the dam usually comes. Dam nida comes from the cheder. And it goes through the prosper and comes out. She's a dam nida. That's the halach. What now? That it's come dam tummy. What happens if dam comes from the aliyah? Aliyah means on top over there, and then goes into the prosper and goes down. Etzem dam tar. That is, the halach is not dam nida. What happens, now the halach is, what happens when dam comes out? Now, roiv of the dam of a isha is by the cheder. That's what dam nida is. That's her human cycle. What is the roiv? And then, however, there's a karov where the dam's coming from. So we see the aliyah as the karov. That's dam tahar. Roiv is dam tummy. So let's go through it. Dam shenimsa b'prosder. You have dam that's coming out of her guf. Sveikoi, we don't know where it's coming from. The halach is she's a tummy. She's a dam nida. Why? Shecheskasoi min hamakar. The makar means the cheder, where it's dam tamei. Ba'afagav the ika aliyah dimikarva, even on top, which is closer to the yitzias aguf. There's an aliyah. We still say that what? She's tummy. Elamai, there's a karav and right. We go basar right. So it's a raya terv chinana. That was a bias raya. Amalei Rava. No, Raivu Matzeh Ka'amrit. No one, there's a Raivu Matzeh Lekalamanda Amr, which means to say as follows. Here, there's a Raiv, and Raiv and a Matzeh, every 28 days, there's a cycle, a Dam Nida comes out. So it's always Matzeh that there's a Dam that's going to come out. It's the human cycle. So no one's arguing when you have a Raiv and Matzeh, which is 2 things against the Karah. The case in our mission was a Shaivach. There's no Matzeh going on. Happens to be, I found a Shaivach, right? I don't know, does it belong to this chicken got a coop? Or it belongs to the right, the bell. Masha'ikon here, we're handing the isha where there's a matzah going on. The Tani Reb Chia already says this. Dam hanimsa, he's going to bring a raya that it's a raya of matzah is much more powerful because the Tani Reb Chia says Dam hanimsa ba prosdar, which is this scenario. Chayav and alav. Welcome, Julie. We just started a few minutes ago. We're talking about our first raya of Reb Chinina. Dam hanimsa beprosda chayavin alav al bias hamikdash. Now the halach is, if you walk into the bias hamikdash, your tummy, and you go into the base hamikdash, the halach is you have to bring a carbon chatas. However, if it's only a suffix that your tummy, you can't bring a carbon, right? Because the halach is you're not able to bring something that's chulin into the azara. Right? The vade, so it's a raya that it's a vade. Another nakuda that it's a vade. They sarfin all of it's a truma. She touched truma. Just typically a bani gives a 50th anywhere between a 140th and 160th. You give it to the kohen. The halacha is it may not be eaten. However, if you touch, you have to burn it. If it's a vade tummy, what happens if the tummy is a suffix? The halacha is toilin v'loyichlin. We don't do anything. We let it rot. I guess eventually it turns into, eventually gets thrown out when it's not edible anymore. Okay, we say toilim like eichlim, we don't eat it or burn it. However, over here we clearly say that we burn it. So 2 points. We bring a carbon chatos which is a vadai, because you can't bring a carbon chatas unless you're a vadai tamei, and you burn it. So it means she is tamei vadai. So you can't call it a suffix. So we're trying to bring out that it's not a raya to say raya v'karev. Raya v'karev is still a suffix. We just go bust to the right. So it's very clear that there is no suffix, and that is what Rava is saying. V'amar Rava shmami no derchia plus. Rava says we from here clearly see. Some the Taisus, we're going to work with Shitas Taisus. Taisus does not want to work with the words V'amar Rava. The Rava is bringing actually a statement from Reb Chanina, or rather it's a new statement because Taisus is questioning that you're telling me V'amar Rava, the Raya is not going to end up coming clearly out from because Taisus is not, it's not going to really support what we just said a moment ago, but the Rav Matzli. Okay, so we're going to work that it's Tani Reb Chia. It's a new concept. Rama Rava is foul. Shmami number Reb Chia class or Tani Rava, whatever it is. Three things we can learn out from Reb Chia. Shmami no Roy v'karev haylech achar arayv. Clearly see this concept, right? Otherwise, you can't go bust her tummy. How can you say she's tummy? Elamai, she is. We go bust her the right. Ushmami no. Another point is Ruba the Raisa, because again, if it's the Rabbanon, you can't bring a carbon and you can't burn it. Another point is Shmamina Isa Reb Zeir. What the Reb Zeir said. Reb Zeir said as follows: what happens? You find meat in the street. Now, the Gemara talks about where if you find meat in the street, Reb Zeir, you're allowed to what? You're allowed to eat it. Why? Because there's two rives going on. Rive number one is 9 out of 10 shaykhim in our Muncie or Kodesh is kosher. None of the coup is, even not the people in Muncie, the rive of the meats coming in is also kosher. So it's two rives. However, Reb Zeir wanted to say, Afalpi, Shedalsis Mina Nulas. Even in a case where there's only one majority because the city is blocked, that means there's no other meat coming in into the city that is kosher. Yeah? There's no meat, no, that is kosher. That's another right. There's no other meat. Maybe Julie should sit right here in the middle like that if we could all see each other. There's no other meat. Usually that Bryce is talking about where there is two rives. One rive is 9 out of 10 shaykhtim in Muncie is kosher shaykhtim. Rive number 2 is that even the meat that's coming from the Velt, rive of that meat that's coming from the Velt is kosher. So you have two. The Velt means the world. However, wherever it's coming from, right? The majority of the stores in the town and the majority of butchers, the meat, whatever it was, coming from the town. Now, Rav Zeir wanted to say, even if there's no one else bringing meat, there's only one rive, it's still kosher. Why? The Isha, the Chidalsis Mina Nulas Damya. The way we look at an Isha is only one rive, which is the Cheder that we explained. The Cheder means the uterus. So there's only one rive. Saraya, and those three things, that it's the right, so we go basra, and it's good enough for one right. What happened? We explained the nida is different because that's the human cycle. So wow, Rava retracted from what he said about a nida, and the way to understand it, apparently, which is hard for me to really understand, because to me it's like I could clearly show the difference between a shayvach and the human nature, human cycle of an isha, which is comes what? So you weren't here in the beginning, but we brought a raya earlier from a nida. A isha, every 28 days she has her cycle, blood comes out from the cheder. However, a isha could also have an aliyah, right here. Aliyah is a little like I would say a little. No, I don't know anatomy that well, but again, the Chasam Sofer says today. You look at you ask the doctors today, it's hard to understand the Gemara. But the Gemara those days understood that a woman had an aliyah. Aliyah means she had a little bubble or something where there was also stored dam to a certain degree, or dam to come out, whether it was a wound, and it's tahar. But the Gemara Lamaisa says the Hadabe Rava Mahi, Rava Taka retracted on the statement to say that a dam nida is matzi. And rather you have to say that maybe you can understand that it's really the frequency is based on the right. It's not based on the it's not independent, rather because there's a majority of dam there, so that's what makes the dam nida. I'm not going to say it's fully understandable because we all know human cycles, and it's every every 28 days, whatever the days are, but it's a cycle that really comes out. Mashenk and the Shevach, it's very easy to differentiate. The Shevach is not a much for the thing to happen, but we're going to have to leave with the little tzarich beer to a certain degree. Okay. So the Gemara continues, Itmar, Chavis Shetzafa Banahar. You have a keg of wine, it's floating in the river. Now, there's a problem of yayin nesach. If it belongs to Goy, even Stan Yenam has a halacha of yayin nesach. Regular wine belonging to Goy, it's yayin nesach. So the halacha is follows. You find a nice barrel of wine in the river. Amirab, Nimses, Keneged Ir Sherubi Yisrael Mutter. See, isn't in the river in Muncie. Mamish right here in Suzanne River. It's probably Suzanne River is not a riot because we're going to see the river needs to connect to the oceans and everything. But the concept is if it's found next to the place where there's Rav Yidden, we can say it's not Yain Nesach, Keneged Cheruba, Nachar Masira. It is a problem of Yain Nesach. Shmuel, here's the Chiddush. Amafilim Nimses, Keneged Ir Sheruba Yisrael. It's still a sira. Why? Why don't we say it's from the river next to Muncie? Amar Mahaidekra. Haidekra was a place where there was Roiv Goyim, which means to say, very nice, the river over here is full of Yidden. It's Muncie. But where did it come from? It didn't come from the river, what's that river that goes through the whole New York State? There's a river.
Hudson.
The Hudson goes all the way up to Canada, I think. Goes all the way up throughout the whole Albany and everything, and the whole Aradiranac Mountains, whatever that place is called. The concept is very nice. It's in front of the Muncie. Zak Shmuel, it could have gone all the way from who knows where. So lema. So let's try to see the machlekes Rabbi Shmuel is what? The Mar is later Rabbi Chanina. Shmuel who held that you go bust a rive of the veld, so it's rive and Karev. Let's bring out the point a little better. Karev is Muncie, rive is Albany. The Mar is later Rabbi Chanina. Shmuel goes basar the rive, which is Albany and everywhere. Umar less later Rabbi Chanina. However, Rav goes basar Karev. So l'chayr it's a raya. Rabbi Shmuel's the machlekes and Rabbi Chanina. Okay. Mar says no. Chanina is not arguing the machlekes and Marayim has nothing to do with Chanina. Light. The kula alma is the Chanina. Everyone could hold that when you have a rive, Albany and Karev, we go bust to the rive. So what's over here the machlekes? The Mar of a Rav is going to hold im isa the Mahaidekra. If it came to the place of Mahaidekra, akuli for sure have a matbayile. Rashi says even today, if you go to the ocean, you see these like rocks that go deep into the ocean sometimes. In those days, there was plenty of stumbling blocks in the ocean that it's very hard to believe that it came all the way up, that eventually would have got stuck. Rashi says many ships used to sink, would hit these, rocks in the ocean and sink. So it's very hard to believe that the barrel came all the way from there. Therefore, we're going to say it's from here. And it's not even about Karev, it's just the rive of the town. Which means Charifa is Lashon Stark, Lashon Sharp, which means the sharp current is going to go so fast that it's floating. It really depends. When something gets a little slow, it sinks a tiny bit, right? It recedes a little and ends up hitting the rocks. But if it's going at a high speed, so it's a little more of a balbatish, a machlekes, is do we say, when we look at this barrel, is there a high chance that it came from there or not? That is the machlekes Rabbi Shmuel. But no one's arguing to carve a right, we go bust a right. Very good Shema Gemara.
The tide in and the tide out.
Mm-hmm.
What's the reason?
Tide in, the tide out? I don't know.
I think it meant by the beach, that the tide in, that the water comes much more on the sand, and the tide out, it goes, it regresses back out. Then one day I was doing a.
Would that be relevant? It would be the tide in is what counts.
So what happened was, not that it was relevant, but I got to do a Sheva Brachas on boat. First reaction is, it's a yacht, a fishing trawler. Wasn't big disappointment. What happened is, when I brought the food in, I went on the pier. I had a big Suburban, and I handed it to my guys on the boat, and it was right there. Well, that night we went around the Statue of Liberty. We came back. The boat was 8 feet lower.
Right. Wow. And the tide in, tide out is how much water is there. The tide out.
But till I experienced it, I could never understand.
Right. When you go to the beach, usually there is signs when the high tide. It's based on the times and everything.
But when you go into Sheep's a Day,
Mhm.
it's closed off, it comes in.
Right. Okay, let's continue. I don't want to lose focus on Rav Chanina and Rav and Kar. Let's continue. We continue with Rav Chanina. Chanina again said by Karev and Rav, we go basra right. Ahu chatzpa, the chamra, the ishtakach, the partisa, the arla. Now, arla, we all know, is the first 3 years of fruit that grows in a tree. It is totally usher to eat those fruit. Now, you're in a vineyard of arla. Anything in that vineyard, if it belongs to the vineyard, it's usher. I walk into the vineyard. I'm the owner. I'm not even the owner. I walk into the vineyard. I see a barrel of wine. Okay, it's hiding. Now that means someone really did something to do with it. Shari Ravina. Ravina permitted the wine. He was not concerned that this barrel was stolen from the Etzem vineyard. Someone's hiding it. So basically, the vineyard itself is usher, but we find a barrel of wine in that vineyard. So do we say, is it stolen? So Lemushum this of the Chanina. Let's try to say Chanina would hold. Roy would tell us it's not coming from this vineyard, right? Because there's a bunch of vineyards, right? There's 10 vineyards. Why say this one? Karoy would tell us it's coming from this vineyard. Mar says, no, it has nothing to do with Karev and Raif. Karev and Raif. Shani Asam, the E Mignavik Min. What are you worried? The only way to say, the option to say that this belongs to this vineyard and it's also from Arla is only if it was stolen. Atznuyi begave loimitznai. Person's not that stupid. The guy is a thief. He stole, what did he do? He stole the barrel, they tell me. He stole the grapes and he pressed the grapes. He wouldn't hide it in that vineyard. And Rashi says, you know why? Because the workers are going to come soon to press the grapes. We're going to see in a second it makes a difference. Since the workers are coming to press the grapes, he's not going to hide it there. The Hani Mili, again, this only applies to wine, because what are you worried about the workers coming to press the grapes? Envy, regarding if you find a barrel or just a bag full of grapes, then mitznai, the thieves themselves might very hide them there, because they're going to, before the harvest comes, when new workers are going to come to press the grapes, basically it was 2 sets of workers. We're going to say group A we're going to know them. They're the ones who deal with all the grapes. They plant them, they grow them, make sure everything's fine, they pluck them. Then pressers need to come to turn it into wine. So if you find a barrel of wine, that means the pressers are coming. They're already starting. We're not going to say he's going to leave it there. Now, Shanker, we're talking about regular grapes. Then it makes sense that they're going to soon, before the pressers come, they're coming on the Monday. They'll quickly make sure to quickly take their grapes with them. Okay. Let's go weiter. Another incident. So far, we had a few incidents. We continue with an incident with the ship. Brought arrived from Nida, ship, and grapes. Anu ziki de chamra. There was these leather bags of wine. Now it's very crucial. These words are bags, not barrels. Okay. They were found between the vineyards of belonging to a yid. Right. So it's very possible if they fell from a yid, a guy, sorry, would be answer. The halacha is Sharinu Rava permitted them. We're almost done. Shaninu Rava. So let's say you didn't hold like a Chanina. Why? Because according to Rav, the bags are coming from a yid. You found them in the vineyard of a yid. According to Rav, they were say it's a guy, because most people are goyim that carry these bags. So you found in the vineyard of the yid. That's Karev. Right, the Karev. We're going basa Karev. So Elamai, we're going to try to say that Rav didn't hell like Rav Chanina. And that we say no. Shani Awesome. We're about to flip the page to Chavdalat and Bebeis. Shani Asam, the Rupa, the Shuvcha Yisrael. In that private, wherever that place was, that village, that town, most people going through were Yid, and therefore we can rely that it fell from Yid. Bahani Mili, again, be Ravari. Ravi were who? Wine merchants. Why is it wine? Why we say they used to make their bags very large to sell them. However, for Zutri, small little bags that anybody in the world, travelers, would do it light. Why? Aimer, Maiver, Drachim, Nafel, and again, that's Raven, them we're going. However, what happens if you find small bags with big bags? The big bags are saying they're wine merchants. The small bags are travelers. There, no. There we say that it's wine merchants. And the reason why they have the small bags is Emer Bavuri having manchi. Rashi explains they were there for the balance of its load. If you look at the picture here, you have a chamar. You have heavy bags. Sometimes you need to put the small bags, like planes today can't fly with balance. The weight needs to be balanced. That's why these small bags, but Avada we could say that it belongs to the wine merchants and right with them were Yidden. So far we had a very geschmack of Rav Chanina, a Karev Erai, and that was more or less Gimel and Al. It's Chav Gimel and Beis and Chav Daud and Al, a very geschmack of Gemara that talks about the sugyos of Karev Ve'Raif. Karev Rafik and Raif and Meat. Okay, Now we're going to continue on a Mishnah that discusses, we have a beautiful city, and we had preventative measures from turning the entrance, or more than that, the aerial view of the city, nice. And we're going to see it right inside. One must distance a tree 25 amas. We're going to see this in the Gemara from the city. Ucharuv, more carob or sycamore trees. Chamishim ama. And the Gemara says as follows. It's very, very pleasant. It's beautiful when you approach a city, and it's beautiful, expanse land, nice and open. Nothing covering up the city. Therefore, you weren't able to put in the immediate vicinity, block it up with trees. It wasn't nice. You could argue, you could say palm trees. You go to Florida and you go to California. It actually does look nice, the palm trees everywhere. But again, when you pull up to the city, you want it to look clean. Therefore, no tree must be planted. Why is Charv Shikma different? Charv Shikma had many more branches. Therefore, if you would have 25 amas, it would grow bigger. Very simple. Okay, now very, very crucial. There was two points we're talking about this city. It has to be in Eretz Yisrael, and it has to be when it was controlled by Klal Yisrael. So you need it to be Eretz Yisrael controlled by Klal Yisrael. Then we have these halachas. Stamazoi, we don't care about Babel. We don't care about Munsi. Galus, we don't care about that. Only Eretz Yisrael, and when Klal Yisrael was in the hands of Klal Yisrael. Okay. Now, Abishalei Merkol Elon Strak Chamishim Amma. If the barren trees, right, and doesn't even produce fruit, that even needs again 50 amos, because it's even worse than a regular tree regarding the look. Okay, now we're going to turn to the halachas of trees that were already planted. Whatever reason, we're going to see. You planted the tree illegally. The city was there first. You weren't allowed to plant it. The halachas, you must cut it. Kites it. Nice and dumb. We don't have to pay you for it, the deceiver. What happens in Elon Kaddim? You always had your tree there, and then eventually they built the city. The halachas again, you still have to cut it. Kites. However, the city has to pay for it. Be nice and dumb. And let's just make a dig. It first says kites. The Gemara is going to make this dig. I'm just bringing it out now. You first have to cut it, then demand payment, right? Today in business, I don't do nothing before you pay me, right? But kites it, then nice and dumb. You first cut it. The Gemara is going to make that dig. Okay. What
seems like the trees were good those days.
It didn't look nice.
Today.
That's what I was saying. Today it's actually beautiful. We want trees, save the planet, right? Okay. Suffix zek kaidem, the suffix zek kaidem. You're unclear whether the tree of the city came first. Allah is kaitzitz. Again, Mainis and Dam, and the Gemara is going to explain. We'll see that in a moment. Second Gemara, my time. Amar Ula. We all wonder in the Mishnah, why do you need what is the problem with trees? Like Jack's saying, it wasn't so pretty. Okay. Why do you need to come onto our Mishnah to tell us about 20 amas? We have another Mishnah that says as follows. Means it's like Mar Eichin explains this. We'll say this outside, that in earlier times, the cities in Klal Yisrael, in Eretz Yisrael, were bordered by a very big land, 1,000 amas wide. This was called a migrash. That's what a migrash means. Now, then you had another 1,000 amas that was reserved for the fields of the residents in order to plant. You have to remember, those days there was no trucking, there was no nothing. You lived off whatever you were able to right near the villages. However, so the halach is you're not allowed to change functions. You're not allowed to change the empty land that was meant for the city to the Sadeh or Sadeh Migrash. Okay. And the reason why we have this Migrash, again, was to look nice.
Migrash is what, a plain or?
Plain land. P-L-A-N-E, like a plain land. Just not P-L-A-I, like a lush and plain, more of a like just empty. That's what plain could mean, right? Lush and nice, open expanse, land 1,000 amas. Now, you weren't able to, the halacha was we didn't want to move anything around. We wanted to be 1,000 amas we needed food. 1,000 amas, and no one could play around with the city. It should look beautiful. So we already clearly see they nice inside the mikdash, so it's monoshas. If I can't plant within 1,000 amas, because I have to leave this empty, how do we get to 25 amas? So like Rebbe Lazar argues. Rebbe Lazar says the Amma ice inside the migrash or migrash something. Rebbe Lazar maintains, you're right. Only regarding the Levium, cities that were reserved for Levium, Rashi says, that's when you couldn't do a Mikdash until this other the Mikdash, because that needed to be preserved. However, regarding the other cities, Rabbi Lazar held, as long as it wasn't Levium, it was up to the city.
Miklat? Is that what they're talking about?
Nothing to do with our Mikdash. I don't think it has anything to do with our Mikdash.
Levim, what else did they have?
I don't know. Possibly, you're bringing out a good point that our Mikdash. Possibly. I don't know. Okay.
No, I mean, I just wondered, maybe they had something, that we don't know about.
Bar Levium, I'm not sure. Okay, but that's where I'm coming from. Rashi says clearly says about of the Ar Levium, but Yisrael was mutter. That was the sheet over there. We'll learn the sugi over there. Metro Shem and Eretz, we'll see. Okay. Hachas, still the chiddush is that even according to Belazar that says that you're able to maneuver around, we don't do 25 hours. What is that talking about? Hani mili zra'im. That a law is dafka with grain or plants. Avelilanis, trees specifically have dinan. That's not a problem. I was going to explain why. The chiddush is tree can be planted within 25. How do you know by the Megrosh, this place of 1,000 amas? There was a difference between Zra'im, which is Aser, and trees were Mutter. The Tanya, it says as follows: Karfaf. What is a Karfaf? Yoisim Beisasayim, which is more than 2 Beisa, Shahukaf Ladir. So let's give Akdama so we understand what Karfaf is. The halach is, Rishus Rabim, you're not allowed to carry Dalat Amos. The Arbana was Misakin, that who would then, if you have an enclosure that was larger than the Chatzar HaMishkan, which was 2 Beisa, it's each 2,500 Amos, square Amos, 5,000 square Amos, Midr abundance also to carry. I'm assuming because it feels like a Rishus Harab. Okay, you feel like you're really in a Rishus Harab. Very nice, it's an enclosure. However, it's only if this karpaf was designated for non-residential use. However, if it was used to live in or a courtyard, it was permissible. Now, what is the halacha when you had it originally as residential? So you're able to carry, right? Again, karpaf is 5,000 square Amos. There are abundance also to carry. However, if it's for residential use, it's mutter. So everyone was carrying. And then they decided, you know what? We're going to build somewhere else. We don't need this residential use. The halach is as follows. Which was enclosed for residential use and therefore was mutter. And then, Nisra Rubai, they decided, you know what? We're not going to do it for residential. We're going to plant. We're going to use it as a garden or whatever it was for seeds. As long as it's right, Hareu Kagina has the halach of a garden, which is not used for dwelling, and if it gets the Rabbanan, it's also with Rabbanan Vas. Nita Rubai. Let's look at this illustration. Plants, grain, anything is awesome. However, if it's trees, Loshin Nata, Nitia means trees. Nizra Zriya Loshin means grain and other stuff. Nita Rubai, Hareu Kachatzer. We can look at it as a regular Chatzer, Umutter. So you